So last topic here, you want to talk about publishers, Jordan?
Yeah, so mine kind of branches off of your topic. The title, I guess, will be publishers' relationships with gamers. Specifically speaking on Mass Effect Andromeda, because I really feel like our chain has gotten jerked quite a bit with this one. And I realize the fact that this is probably not the way that they originally intended the game to roll out, since it's already been delayed. We were supposed to be playing it right about now. And I get that, things change and you can't just, it wasn't set in stone, and so you can't crucify them over that. But at the same time, I think that it is completely disrespectful in some aspects. And I would say that Mass Effect Andromeda is a great example of that, where, first of all, like I just mentioned earlier, you have a company saying all of these games will be out this year or next year. You didn't have to fucking say that in the first place. And second of all, the way that they give us this cinematic trailer, then a year later we still haven't seen gameplay, and they give us a dev diary. Then they come to the fucking PS Pro meeting and give us gameplay, but it's just walking through a corridor, turning on, pressing a button on this map, this terminal thing. Yeah, exactly. And then as soon as something starts to happen, as soon as they enter combat, they fade out. And I get that they're doing this whole N7 day coming up in November. It's Mass Effect Day. But the fact of the matter is you've now had 3 chances to show me why I should be excited for Mass Effect Andromeda, and you've only succeeded one of those times with the original cinematic trailer. Now, that trailer left me wanting. I think they could have even done more with that. It was a great trailer, but at the same time, you're losing me here. And I get a lot of people are here saying, I'm hearing a lot of people say that, well, it's BioWare Montreal, and, they've got a great track record, and there's no way that this game's going to suck. And I agree with all those things, but, first of all, it's BioWare Montreal, but it's also a lot younger people. Like, we've heard anecdotally that this is not a bunch of veterans. There's plenty of veterans on the team, I'm sure, but it's not all the veterans that have gone through the entire Dragon Age and Mass Effect series now. Furthermore, a lot of people, don't like Dragon Age 2 very much at all. A lot of people don't like Mass Effect 3 and Mass Effect 1. And piecing together with that, I think that, and I'm not saying that if Mass Effect had come out this year, it would be a 9, and since it's coming out next year, it's going to be a 7. But I definitely think there's a possibility where all this dilly-dallying that they're doing, all this screwing up that they're doing as far as the marketing speak, I think we're running the risk of the game dropping from, maybe an 8.5 or a 9 down to, a 7.5. Maybe it's even better than that. Maybe it was going to be absolutely incredible masterpiece, and now it's just a really great game, and you're like, well, hey, it's a really great game. But this fucking around that they're doing, shooting themselves in the foot, I really hope that the game doesn't suffer. More anecdotes that we've heard is the fact that there's some mismanagement going on at that studio. Of course, Casey Hudson, we know he didn't leave because of bad blood. He simply went down to BioWare Austin to work on Star Wars, The Old Republic, maybe even a new Star Wars game, who knows. But it's clear to me that there is mismanagement going on. It seems both at BioWare Montreal and EA, and drawing it back to the title of the topic, I just don't think when we're paying for these people to make these games or to publish these games as gamers, I don't think that we should have to sit through this BS that they've been giving us for the past year and a half, and just take it, just kind of bend over and be okay with it. Yeah, it's okay, man. Just get the game out whenever you can. There's something to be said for the fact that when someone comes out and says, this is when our game's going to come out, it should come out then,
Yeah.
So yeah, take it away, guys.
So I think this kind of leads into the other conversation of like Fallout 4 being developed in a vacuum, but people still kind of really enjoyed the game, even though it still felt a little outdated. And I think it's because Bethesda does everything to be in the good graces of gamers. They really know how to play their cards right. Sony, to me, is, I think, just there with BioWare. Like, I do see exactly what you're hitting on with BioWare. I completely agree that all of those concerns are justified and everything. Sony's the same way. Like, if you look at Sony's conference, all of those exclusives, we might not... It was going to be Last Guardian and Horizon Zero Dawn. Horizon Zero Dawn got pushed. Last Guardian
And Gran Turismo Sport. Don't forget about that.
Yeah, and Last Guardian. So that means that you're probably not going to see, if Last Guardian gets delayed again, which it probably will, you're not going to see any of those games that they showed at their E3 conference this year. A lot of the games that were announced, like Spider-Man and God of War and Days Gone, a lot of people, you guys included, think that at least one of those games drops next year. I still highly doubt it. I said early on when that first conference happened, I don't see any of those games coming out next year. Sony mismanages stuff pretty heavily as well. We've seen that. A lot of their games get delayed. And, you know, I agree with you that I think publishers, now you're seeing them retract and be like, we need to make an announcement right before the game comes out because this isn't working. BioWare, I think, definitely sees that they're a product of having a game announcement right before that Fallout 4 buzz hit and people are changing the way they look at games, you know. Horizon Zero Dawn, even though it hasn't been around, I think it's 1 year younger than Mass Effect Andromeda in terms of people knowing about it. But still, people were hyped about that game, and that game got delayed too. Like, that game's not guilty. Like, it's also guilty of that. It's coming, just like BioWare Montreal is a studio of younger guns with some veteran leadership, but the other guys moved on to the new IP. Those guys haven't really made a standout game. The Killzone games have been, you know, good, but they haven't really ever captured the Call of Duty numbers or other, you know. It seemed like even the new Wolfenstein had way more excitement for it than any of the Killzones ever had. And I'm not saying those games are bad. It's just they haven't necessarily put all of their eggs in a basket and made that basket sell.
Guerrilla absolutely needs to prove themselves. I agree.
Yeah, this game could kill Guerrilla Games if it's not good. I really think that. Because if they had them move away from Killzone, Sony, I think, was already like, hey, Killzone's not working. We need you guys to do something that's more profitable and we can expand on a global scale and be bigger and better and bolder. And if this doesn't pay off, I don't know how that's going to turn out for them. So I just think publishers need to be more honest with gamers. I think that they need to message themselves more. I really enjoy that Peter Moore has come out and talked a lot more. He's a lot more front-facing than he ever was for EA. And he's admitted a lot of mistakes. He was on an interview recently with Ryan McCaffrey, and he's talked about a lot of this stuff. And, like, yeah, it's hard to hear from a business guy that they're for the gamers. But if he sits there talking and he says stuff that really sounds genuine, you know, you kind of got to take him for his word, whether or not that's true or not. But, like, I do feel as if people are starting to realize that they need to be more front-facing, and I think it's on the duty of gamers, too, to not just bash devs. Like, yeah, Sean Murray messed up, Hello Games messed up, but also look at Sony. Like, you have to look at the publishers just as much. We said this a couple of weeks ago. Sony is probably one of the most responsible people for the failure of No Man's Sky, if not the major. So, I just think publishers are learning that they need to be more front-facing. They need to be more understanding, and they just need to know what we expect as gamers. I think it's just companies not realizing what their community wants. I think it's just people being tone deaf. It reads exactly like the Microsoft Xbox One announcement conference. It reads exactly like the PS3 conference. It's just companies not understanding the audience and completely not knowing what they're supposed to say and completely screwing it up over and over again.
So the problem with, because you're absolutely right, pretty much everything you just said. The problem with it is, though, the disconnect between a publisher, a developer, and the gamer, right? Yeah. Most people don't know that EA publishes, you know, XYZ games, or that Activision Blizzard publishes Call of Duty. They don't know that. They might see the logos and they might see Infinity Ward or something. They don't know. They're just like, it's some of the people that made the game, I guess, right? Yeah. They don't connect that game to the other games that publisher puts out, right? So if one publisher, will say Sony, consistently is delaying all their games and you don't ever see anything from them, then people don't necessarily make that same connection and bite them back with their wallet, right? They're like, well, every game is kind of it's looked at by itself. Exactly. By most people. Again, we're not most people. Yeah. But most people that play games are kind of just like, yeah, it's a game, Call of Duty, like whatever. For all they know, like, it could be made by the same team as Battlefield, like, you know. Well, and I mean, that's a stretch,
I think gamers know that Call of Duty games are made in the same thing. But I guarantee you, if you took just a normal average Joe that plays video games and you told them that Destiny is made by the same, published by the same company that makes Call of Duty, they wouldn't know that.
They'd have no idea.
Exactly. Yeah.
I bet you could find 1,000 people on the internet in YouTube comments yelling at each other and screaming that Destiny is better than Call of Duty and vice versa and like this and that, and like they don't know, like you're saying, that they're made by the same publisher and they don't care if you're, you know what I'm saying? Yeah. Not enough people make that connection, so it's hard. So publishers are never going to get the brunt of the blame like we're saying they should because of that. But It's just the way it is.
A good point that you made, Dom, is the disconnect was the word that you used, and I think that's a big point for this topic. You know, the publisher's relationship to gamers. Man, I think we have the devs that are out there today are more connected to gamers than they ever have been.
But the publishers are farther apart, I think.
Exactly.
So
I think CD Projekt Red's a great example of that. On the other hand, I think publishers have well, maybe not never been more disconnected, but I think they are still way, way, way behind on what they think gamers want, what they think is right for gamers, what is the cool thing. I think that a lot of times when you have these Peter Moores or these executives from these big publishers come out on stage, a lot of times it sounds like grandpa talking about video games. Like they have no idea what the fuck is going on. And I feel like the developers are clearly the ones that do. And I think publishers need to listen to developers more as opposed to vice versa, because you'll make more money as a publisher if you know what you're doing and know what you're talking about. And you don't sound like an idiot when you're talking about video games. I just think that a lot of these games getting delayed is really mismanagement on the publisher's part and not so much the, creative director at so-and-so studio.
So I just thought of a great example, right? I bought a Dodge car. It sucks. I hate Dodge. I'm never buying another Dodge again. Screw them. I'm going to go buy a Chrysler.
Exactly. Yep.
Right? Yeah. That's what it is. That's how I see it, I guess. Like, people don't realize that it's the same. You might as well buy another Dodge. It's whatever.
Yeah. Also, I think if you get 100 publishers in a room, or heads of publishing studios, and you get 100 game devs in a room, and you say, how many of you play video games? I guarantee you'll have a way higher percentage with the game devs of people who play video games than the big boys at publishers. That has to do with disconnect as well.
Think about this.
That's what I said a couple weeks ago. We need more gamers like in the business side.
In the business side, exactly.
So if you're talking, let's just connect that to movies, right? And you get 100 filmmakers, of all different kinds, cinematographers and directors and producers and blah, blah, blah. And then you get 100 movie executives. How many on the filmmaker side watch movies? A bunch. And how many on the executive side watch movies? A bunch, because everybody watches movies.
Yeah.
But that's not how it is with game publishers.
I'd argue that, though, the movie execs don't care nearly as much about the quality as, the actual producers and directors would. I mean, they're like old white guys that are billionaires. They're just like, whatever, get it out, make money.
They know what a movie is. They know what a movie should be. They know how a movie should be treated in marketing. They get that, because
everybody it's a more broad.
Movies.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. So